All right, everyone. Good evening, Shrewsbury residents, and welcome to the Shrewsbury Media Connection Community Advocate Candidate Forum. My name is Evan Walsh. I'm the managing editor of the Community Advocate. And first, I'd like to thank all the candidates, both for school committee and select board, who have agreed to be here tonight. This forum follows an hour-long meet and greet session where community members had the opportunity to interact with the candidates here at Oak Middle School. And we're excited to hear from everyone today.
My name is Prabal Vadlamudi, and I'm a junior at Shrewsbury High School. As a member of Shrewsbury's speech and debate team, I'll be the other moderator for tonight's forum. I'd like to start with some basic rules. First, we have great respect for all the candidates who have chosen to put themselves in the public sphere in an effort to improve the town. For that reason, we will not tolerate any attacks that specifically target another candidate. General ideas are fair to criticize, but candidates themselves are not. We'll start the night with opening statements from the two school committee candidates who are running for two open seats. Both candidates will then answer two additional questions. Then, the select board candidates will take the stage. After an opening statement from each candidate, we'll ask candidates questions in randomized order. We ask the audience not to react to any responses, positive or otherwise, until the end of the forum. Please, everyone, be kind.
There are so many people to thank for making this event possible, among them Greg Marceau from Shrewsbury Public Schools, Sarah Heshey from Shrewsbury Media Connection, Dave Bagdon, the publisher of the Community Advocate, and of course, Mark, Sarah, and Liz Poplowski of Shrewsbury Media Connection for making this excellent event possible. Alyssa Hammond, producer at Shrewsbury Media Connection, will be doing the timing for the event. So candidates, when Alyssa in the front row there holds up the 30-second card, you'll know you have 30 seconds left to speak. When the card reads stop, that's your cue to stop. So thank you, SMC, for all you do for the community. And with that, I'd like to welcome the two candidates for the school committee, incumbent Erin Boucher and Rajesh Velagapudi.
Candidates, thank you for being here. Starting with candidate Boucher, please give a 2-minute opening remark.
Good evening. My name is Erin Boucher, and I'm seeking re-election to the Shrewsbury School Committee. As an initial matter, I would like to thank the Community Advocate and the Shrewsbury Media Connection for organizing this forum and for our moderator from the Shrewsbury High School Speech and Debate Club. I have lived in Shrewsbury since 2012 with my husband, 2 daughters, and I am proud to call Shrewsbury home. My oldest daughter graduated from Shrewsbury High School in 2024, and my younger daughter is a sophomore at Shrewsbury High School. I graduated from the College of the Holy Cross and Suffolk University Law School, and I work as an attorney at the law firm Myrick O'Connell, specializing in civil litigation. In addition to my tenure on the school committee since 2022, I've been a town meeting member since 2014. I served as a member of the Beale School Building Committee, a school council member at Shrewsbury High School and Oak Middle School, and I am a past co-president of the Spring Street School PTO. I'm excited to be running for re-election to the Shrewsbury School Committee. I'm proud of the work that I've done during my first term. Working collaboratively with other members of the committee, the district's leadership, educators, and community members, we developed a new 5-year strategic plan for the Shrewsbury Public Schools in 2023 and have been actively working to implement the strategic priorities in the areas of educational excellence, enhanced well-being of all, and the optimization of resources. Additionally, this year, the school committee engaged a third-party team, district management group, to conduct a comprehensive financial analysis of the Shrewsbury Public Schools. DMG concluded that Shrewsbury Public Schools operates an efficient and effective organization which has consistently delivered strong academic outcomes, performing in the top 15% of Massachusetts school districts while spending in the bottom 15%. I am running for re-election so I can continue this important work and build upon the district's accomplishments.
Thank you, candidate Boucher. Candidate Velagapudi, your 2-minute opening remarks.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank SMC and Community Advocate and the moderator from high school speech and debate team for coordinating this event tonight. I'm Rajesh Velagapudi. I'm running for school committee, and I respectfully request your support and vote on May 6th, this Tuesday. My wife and I moved to Shrewsbury in 2009, in part because of the excellent education system and vibrant community. I hold a PhD in biological sciences from Germany, and I have experience in developing strategies and implementing short-term and long-term growth initiatives. For the past 18 years, I worked as a research scientist and business professional, accelerating innovations to develop therapeutic products that improve health and well-being of all. As a parent of two kids in Shrewsbury school system, grade 8 and grade 3, I am proud of our school district and where we stand. I also see opportunities to improve to meet our current and future student needs. With the ever-changing educational landscape, we need to prepare our students to meet 21st century expectations. To ensure our students are prepared in real world, we must provide opportunities for career-focused learning, such as vocational programs, trade skills, career and technical opportunities to make them ready for the work in real life. Continue improving the internship opportunities for STEAM and improving financial literacy as part of the curriculum. As a member of Finance Committee, I always advocated for responsible budgeting, ensuring that every dollar is used effectively and efficiently to benefit our students and taxpayers. I firmly believe the best schools enable sustainable growth and development in our community. Working with all members of the community, I'm able to achieve that growth. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Velagapudi. As a high school student here in Shrewsbury, I'm grateful for the opportunity to ask school committee members 2 questions. The first question will be answered in the following order: candidate Velagapudi and then candidate Boucher. For the first question, Shrewsbury schools are among the state's best, but that doesn't mean the district isn't facing challenges. In particular, stress, anxiety, and mental health problems are affecting students across Massachusetts. A recent study done at Shrewsbury High School found that only 56% of students feel like they belong. How would you seek to support students in these non-academic areas? What would those efforts look like? You have 2 minutes to answer.
Wonderful. That's a great question. I believe in supporting the whole student at our school system is the most important thing. I believe in the strength of our schools, not only in the terms of academic excellence, but also in the ability to support and nurture the whole student. I do agree that 56% feel truly belong. That number makes us to pause and think. After doing everything, with the academic excellence that we have, we also have students that are struggling, which is less visible with stress, anxiety, and growing sense of disconnection. These challenges are not unique to our town. They are prevalent across the state and also across the country. But we have the opportunity to improve that, being the leader in academic excellence. We must make sure every student walk through those doors, feel seen, supported, and safe. Expanding access to mental health resources, we have implemented post-pandemic, we got opportunity to hire counselors, but we're seeing a trend that is improving, but we are not fully there yet. So I do see an opportunity to improve, listening to the students when they feel isolated and responding with real meaningful action. Some of these do not cost us anything. We do not need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to engage in the conversation with the students that are feeling the need. Some of the programs that we offer, both non-curriculum, non-academic curriculum-based programs, are one of the ways to make the students feel engaged, connected to the extracurricular activities that are offered at school, and also other sports, athletic activities are one of the sources. So together we make town not just one stop for the school discourse, but a place where students feel they matter. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Velagapudi. Candidate Boucher, your thoughts?
Sure. It's clear that schools play a vital role in helping students feel safe and secure by connecting students to vital services. I believe that the elimination of the activity fee at both the high school and the middle school, in addition to the late bus service 3 days a week, which the district has now incorporated into its operating budget, make these activities more accessible to students that may not have been able to participate in these activities and clubs prior. The late bus also allows students to stay after for extra help and potentially makes additional connections with teachers. Research indicates that participation in clubs and other co-curricular activities enhance a student's sense of belonging and overall academic success. Additionally, with regard to clinical services, in the 2022-2023 school year, the district made significant investments in its clinical department. The district supported the addition of an adjustment counselor at Oak Middle School, 2 additional adjustment counselors at the Shrewsbury High School, 2 additional district clinical coordinators, a district social worker, and a director of counseling and mental health services for the entire district. These additional positions have increased the district's capacity to support students' social, emotional, behavioral, and mental health. The district is also seeking to add an adjustment counselor position at Coolidge School in this year's budget. This additional staff in the clinical department has increased the capacity of universal mental health and social emotional learning screening tools across the district, and these screeners help provide helpful data to the clinical team so they can make effective plans at the school. They've continued to assess best practices to ensure multi-leveled, multi-tiered systems of support. I believe that the district's comprehensive approach to mental health services aims to increase student resilience, reduce mental health stigma, promote positive social emotional development, and provide meaningful inclusion opportunities. The district prioritizes early intervention and prevention to address mental health concerns before they escalate, and a model that collaborates with families and community partners to ensure a student-centered approach supporting all students. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. For the next question, it will be answered in the following order: Candidate Boucher and then Candidate Velagapudi. Education is the largest part of the town's operating budget. While the district has historically leveraged every dollar, Shrewsbury is in the top 15% of outcomes while spending in the bottom 15% of districts. Budgetary issues remain a struggle. How will you seek to achieve world-class education and sustainable, balanced budget?
So as an initial matter, I would like to thank the community for its support of the operational override in 2021. The existing override agreement between the Select Board and the School Committee has provided critical local funding, and as a result, the current fiscal stability of the Shrewsbury Public Schools is an outlier for the coming fiscal year, as many other Massachusetts districts are facing significant cuts due to structural deficits. The override model has provided predictability to the school department's budget and has allowed the school committee, along with the district's leadership, to plan strategically, knowing the town's investment in education, what it will be over multiple years. The Shrewsbury Public Schools have been strong stewards of the town's resources and have maintained their commitment to be fiscally responsible. As I mentioned, the school committee brought in an independent consultant this year, the district management group, to assess the financial health of the district. DMG is an educational consulting firm that works with school districts nationwide to analyze educational budgets and assist with strategic planning. DMG gave Shrewsbury high marks. Residents of Shrewsbury can be confident that our schools are effectively managed, produce a high academic return on investment, and provide this result at a much lower per pupil expenditure than the state average and the vast majority of Massachusetts districts. Shrewsbury spends 13% less than its comparable districts and 18% less than the state of Massachusetts. DMG's analysis concluded that Shrewsbury Public Schools demonstrates a thoughtful and strategic approach to spending while delivering outstanding outcomes. I look forward to continuing to strategically address the risks identified and consider the recommendations outlined in DMG's report to ensure long-term financial stability and excellence of Shrewsbury Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Boucher. Candidate Velagapudi, your response.
Thank you. It's no secret education is at the heart of our community, and that's the largest part of our budget. There might be a question for some, I see the reflection of our values. We believe in preparing every child for success. That's a commitment we should be proud of. We also know that budgetary pressures are real. Inflation, aging infrastructure, and changing needs of the community, and then the need for a dollar. Every dollar needs to be spent wisely. The question is how to protect the quality of our schools while respecting the hard-earned dollars of our taxpayers. I believe in a path that honors both commitment to excellence in education and responsibility to be good fiscal stewards. We must focus on the efficiencies. As Ms. Boucher mentioned, the school committee has engaged a third-party DMG. They looked into every aspect of our budget, and then they also suggested some of the ways we can improve our efficiencies within the system. So I'm looking forward to looking at in detailed data analysis in that. We must also innovate where it counts, and we must think creatively about revenue and partnerships. So one of the proposals I'm putting in for the internships, we're mostly engaging with the community, making the community the partner within these conversations, offering the students the internships they need, and engaging in the school system. And transparency and trust. When we engage bringing in all the parents, residents, and voters into the conversation, sharing the information proactively makes them feel engaged. When the people are engaged, they believe in the outcomes. So, because when the friends, that's the choice that between great schools and fiscal responsibility, we can and we must have both. So we are proud where we are, and we will lead from here to a better community and better schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for both candidates for responding to the questions. We would now like to have each candidate give a 1-minute opening closing statement. We'll start with candidate Velagapudi.
Thank you. Working closely with school and town leadership, parents, guardians, residents, and voters, I'm committed to building consensus on strategies for long-term growth and financial diligence. I'm dedicated to balancing excellence and affordability, a commitment to education and to the community. Together, we can make town not just one of the top schools in test scores, but a place where every student feels they matter. I can make an immediate impact drawing from personal and professional experiences, and I firmly believe that best schools enable sustainable growth and development of the community. Thank you for your time and ongoing commitment to our district and town. I respectfully request your vote on May 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Velagapudi. Candidate Boucher, your 1-minute closing.
Student success is my first priority. Shrewsbury Public Schools consistently endeavor to improve student achievement while striving for the most cost-effective and efficient way to deliver services. I will remain dedicated to this mission as I am committed to continuing Shrewsbury's tradition of excellence in education. My leadership skills, professional background as an attorney, and my volunteer roles in both the Shrewsbury Public Schools and town government provides me with the necessary skills to evaluate the priorities of our district. The past 3 years on the school committee have given me the opportunity to work effectively with school personnel, community members, and elected and appointed officials to analyze the district's budget and respond to the challenges faced by our schools. I will continue to advocate for the appropriate funding to provide educational programming that meets the needs of all of our students. Serving on the Shrewsbury School Committee has been an honor, and I'm proud of the work I've done during my tenure. I hope to earn your support so I continue to work hard for the students and the community. I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, May 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, school committee candidates. Community members, please make sure you vote on May 6th.
To everyone watching at home and in the audience, we're going to take about a 2-minute break to switch around our set and welcome the select board candidates up, and we will be back with you in a matter of seconds. So thank you so much. All right, thank you for bearing with us through that brief break. We're happy to have the select board candidates with us tonight, starting from left to right with incumbent Michelle Conlon, Brian Hoagley, Greg Richards, Anand Sharma, and Nicole Torres. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll start with a 2-minute opening statement, and we'll start, just as I just mentioned you, in alphabetical order, going from left, the audience's left to right down the table. So, candidate Conlon, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Conlon, and I'm running for re-election to the Shrewsbury Select Board. The place where you grow up shapes the path of your life. While we don't choose our own hometown, we do get to choose our children's hometown. I chose Shrewsbury for my family, and I'm committed to ensuring that it remains a place where all people can live to their fullest potential, raise their families, and retire happily. As my first term on the Select Board comes to a close, I'm proud of what we'd accomplished together. I helped develop the 2030 strategic plan, creating a shared vision of our town's future where Shrewsbury is a vibrant, inclusive, and sustainable community where everyone can thrive. We expanded public participation through new committees focused on diversity, sustainability, and trails, and made government more transparent and accessible. Through smart financial management, we extended the life of the 2021 override revenues 3 years beyond expectations, while still maintaining strong municipal services. I led the effort to permanently protect over 75 acres of Prospect Park. I supported sustainability initiatives, land acquisition for conservation and open space, and led efforts to shape the programs and services that meet residents' evolving needs. I also advanced Shrewsbury's commitment as a dementia-friendly community and expanded support for food pantries, utility assistance, and tax relief programs. Looking ahead, my priorities remain clear: transparent, accessible government built on open communication, trust, and addressing resident concerns. Compassionate services for all, including tax relief for seniors, veterans, and residents with disabilities. We must continue to modernize our town's social services to meet contemporary needs for the most vulnerable in our community. Economic growth through responsible, sustainable development and support for small businesses. Infrastructure investment in water resources, roads, open spaces, and preparing Shrewsbury for the future. And strong public schools that are vital to our town's future and quality of life. In these uncertain times, I will continue to improve services and lead with long-term planning, financial responsibility, and a deep commitment to collaboration with residents, staff, and committees. I'm asking for your vote on May 6th that I can keep working for Shrewsbury where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Conlon. Candidate Hoagley, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Brian Hoagley, and I'm currently running for Select Board here in Shrewsbury. Before I really kind of go into anything, I want to say thank you to the community advocate, to Shrewsbury, the voters, my fellow candidates here as well for attending this. I know it's no small feat, as this is my first foray into politics. Above all, I want to thank God for his view and ability to give me the chance to be here, and then followed up very, very closely by my beautiful wife and my daughter Juliana, who have supported me as we look to establish a good presence within Shrewsbury of leadership. A little bit about me, I think that's important. You know, I'm 45 years old. We've lived here since 2015. We moved here from D.C., where I ran large programs for the United States Department of Defense and the intelligence community. Moving here in 2015 to take a role as the first vice president and chief information security officer running global cybersecurity and privacy and physical security operations for the Hanover Insurance Group here locally. And then followed up that with starting my own company, of which now I am the CEO, and have taken the company public. I bring all of this to all of you because I'm painting a picture, and I hope you see that I have the leadership and the experience and the capabilities, and that is what I believe is really required for a select board member. What area that I believe we are going to talk about considerably today will be, what is the select board? What are the expectations of the select board? What is it they're going to do? And the thing we have to remember is this body, their role is as the chief executive officer of the town, not the town manager, not our representative town members, but the select board. And we need personnel and people with proven experience who can articulate exactly what it is that needs to happen within the town for the taxpayers, the voters, and those that live here, so that we can have a good community. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Hoagley. Candidate Richards, you're next.
Sure. I'm Greg Richards. I start by thanking Mark, Liz at Shrewsbury Media Connection, Evan at the Community Advocate, I grew up in the Chicago suburbs. Both my parents were teachers, and which led me to pursue a degree in electrical engineering at the Milwaukee School of Engineering. My career brought me to Massachusetts, where I was able to meet my wife, Christy, who is my biggest cheerleader, and ultimately I became the vice president of sales at Northeast Electrical. When my son Gavin was 3, my wife and I said we needed to move out of the city, and we looked for a place where we could start a family. And fortunately, we found Shrewsbury. It checked all the boxes. It's a safe community, has great schools, and it kind of gives you that small town vibe. My first experience with local government was actually after we made a lot of sacrifice and we saved and we wanted to put in a pool. And I had to go in front of the Conservation Commission. And I thought that process would be one where they were helping and supporting the residents throughout the process. But unfortunately, those appointed board members, used subjective measures, caused a lot of delay and costs. And I really left that meeting with a bad taste in my mouth, and I thought there has to be a better way. A year ago, my wife volunteered me to do a session at the library about the MBTA Communities Act. And after that presentation, it really led to the creation of the Unselects, where I try to educate and inform the public about key issues in town. I've advocated, to protect our aquifer regarding the Clinton Street warehouse project. And I advocated for an elected planning board because I really believe zoning is the thing that really shapes the character of our community. And I also was part of the referendum around the Vote No campaign to ensure we maximized the affordable housing we had in town. So I hope everyone here tonight and watching at home use this opportunity to really determine who you feel best will help shape our community in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Richards. Candidate Sharma, you have the floor.
Yeah. So thank you, Evan and Mark, for organizing this event. And I would like to team also behind the scene. They are also working hard to this event. So basically, this is Anand Sharma. I'm resident of the Shrewsbury over 24 years. I live in the town with my wife and 2 kids. My daughter goes to Shrewsbury High School, and my son goes to the Sherwood Middle School. And my in-laws also live in the town. They are over 80s, and they live in the town too. Professionally, I have MBA degree, and I'm engineering also. I work with MIT Lincoln Laboratory, where I'm helping the U.S. Defense. I'm also part of the previously have been worked with the Federal Bank of Boston, where I was in the finance department. Other than that, I involved in the community for over 8 decades. I'm currently the vice president of Spirit Shrewsbury, where we are organizing events like parade and expo every year. And this fall, we are also doing the same thing, so please join us. Other than that, I'm a town meeting member and member of the Rotary Club, where I'm helping and organizing food distribution drive, blood donation, and recycling event, and many more, which is not a part of our list, but we do for a lot of community work there. I'm also part of the 300 Celebration Committee. We also working on organizing a couple of events in the coming years, this year and next year, where we are going to celebrate the 300th celebrity. Why I'm running for select board position? Because I have professional experience, my community engagement, which are going to give a town a new perspective, which we needed this time. And also, I have a skill set also to navigate with the strong or problematic issues. I also issue with providing the solution for the problem which the town is facing. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Sharma. And finally, Candidate Torres.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And thank you so much to the Community Advocate and SMC for hosting this forum. I would like to thank the members of our town who came out tonight to hear directly from the candidates, as it is you who I am here to serve if so elected. It is truly an honor to be here before you as a candidate. I am running for the Select Board because I absolutely love our town. I am not running out of anger or angst, but rather a strong desire to help Shrewsbury and every resident flourish. I have 2 young children in our schools, and I plan to remain in Shrewsbury for many years to come. Since choosing to move to Shrewsbury with my family, I have become involved as a town meeting member, vice president-elect of the Shrewsbury Rotary Club, vice chair of Shrewsbury's 300th Anniversary Committee, and the vice president of the Shrewsbury Development Corporation. However, I feel I can best serve the community at large through the role of a select board member. As an attorney, I believe in basing decisions on all of the facts from reputable sources, not simply acting based off of inaccurate or partial information. My entire life, I have never been afraid to voice my opinion, even if it is unpopular. As a small business owner, I believe in a fiscally conservative budget that recognizes the delicate balance between the needs of the future and the financial strain of the present that so many are currently facing. I want to see our town maintain its strong history of civil discourse when we are working through strenuous issues. I teach my children to listen as much as they speak and to treat others with the same respect they wish to receive in return. I recognize that if elected, I will represent those in town who may not agree with me on certain issues, and I take that responsibility very seriously. Decisions made on behalf of a town of nearly 40,000 people cannot be entered into lightly, and trust from the community, transparency of decision-making, and more community involvement are absolutely key. We are all residents of this incredible town, and we are all Shrewsbury. If elected on May 6th, I will never lose sight of that.
Thank you, Candidate Torres, and thank you all candidates for your thoughtful opening remarks. Over the last couple of weeks, Shrewsbury Media Connection and the Community Advocate, with a lot of input from the community, have developed a list of questions for this evening. None of the candidates have seen the questions prior to this forum, and they'll be answering the questions in a randomized order. So with that, the first question will be answered in the following order, starting with Candidate Torres, Candidate Hoagley, Candidate Richards, Candidate Sharma, and Candidate Conlon. Just 2 days ago, town meeting approved a $40 million renovation to the town's Department of Public Works facilities at South Street. Now the issue will head to a townwide vote. At the same time, people will cast their ballots for a select board. What are you taking into consideration when evaluating this project, and how would you encourage others to vote on May 6th?
Thank you. That's perhaps the hottest topic in town right now, with it being something that town meeting just voted on, and as a town meeting member, I did vote on this very topic. In order to get involved and understand more, I think it's very important to, A, tour that building. So I would highly encourage all of the residents to go down to the DPW to tour the building. I would also highly recommend that everyone goes and looks at the presentation that the municipal, the MFOC, the Municipal Facilities Organization put together with all of the materials that go into why this is a really needed decision for the town. If you go there and you see those buildings, they're truly falling apart. I mean, they're at the end of their useful life. So in terms of what we need to weigh as to whether or not something like this project needs to be taken on is obviously, is the building at the end of its useful life, which I believe that it is? What would happen if we just continued to let the building essentially go into disarray? And I believe that would be especially hurtful for the community. I don't believe that this is something that we could do essentially patchwork, because it would end up being something that's more expensive over time, which leads me to something, the third thing that everyone should consider when discussing the DPW project. What does it do to our taxpayers? Because ultimately, the residents in town and the way that town meeting votes, that directly affects these residents in town and their tax bill. It's going to affect their pockets at the end of the day. I do believe that if we were to push this project off, it would end up being much more expensive. We've all seen what has happened with tariffs and the ups and downs and the exciting adventure that that's been as of late. I truly believe that things are only going to get more expensive and that building's only going to get older. It's not going to get any younger. Again, I don't believe that we can just take patchwork. So I am in support of the DPW project, especially with this being a debt exclusion, meaning it's only going to be a part of our tax bill for a short period of time until it's going to come off.
Thank you, Candidate Torres. We'll move to the other side of the table for Candidate Hoagley's thoughts.
I don't think there's any question about the importance of the DPW building. I think that's well stated and I think very understood, even driving by. You don't even have to go in that building if you drive by. What I take concern with is how we got here and at this point to a $40 million project. I applaud Greg and Brian Costello for what they've done with the Unselects. Unfortunately, you've only had about 400 views on that very well done YouTube video fully explaining how the entire project went from 10 to 20 to 30 to $40 million. So when I look at what the issue is, the vote's going to happen. We're past that. And the voters are going to vote, and my only appeal to voters is get out and vote. Currently, we only have 15% of the town actually vote in local elections. That's a problem, but it's on par for most municipalities and towns. So get out and vote the way you feel about this. That's going to happen regardless. But looking at how we got here, if that is an indication of future infrastructure projects, we are going to have a real issue if the current select board as is takes that type of thinking, that type of an approach to any type of future projects. Think about $10 million turning to $40 million when they come up and say, listen, we're going to do the school next, needs an expansion. How is that going to balloon? How is that going to be managed? That is something that we need to look at more than just, do we need a new DPW building? Yes, obviously we do. I want my roads to work. You want your roads to work. But how we decide to spend, how we get there, that is what is really a question. So do go out and vote. I think the MBTA vote that was put forward on a special election will be our canary in the coal mine on exactly how May 6th will go. But I hope it passes because I believe we need a new DPW. But if it doesn't, I hope it gets sent back, restructured, and properly financed at a lower cost.
Thank you, Candidate Hoagley. Candidate Richards, you're next.
Yeah, I appreciate any viewers we can get on the Unselect, so thank you. As I mentioned on the episode, I think we need to give the DPW the tools they need to do their jobs. I've often said it. I think in local government, the services that we provide need to be extremely efficient. That's police, fire, DPW. And, they're not able to do that unless we give them those tools to provide it. My biggest concern, as I have stated in this project, was more about the process we take and how we set expectations with the community. If we don't know an answer to a question, it's okay to tell people we don't know. And actually, having sat at town meeting, I actually appreciate the fact that Kevin Mizikar didn't commit to a number on high school expansion, and he actually stated on the DPW project that the $42 million may not be the final number because there's other things we need to do. I think that's the right approach. We need just to be honest with the community, and if we don't know, then we just have to say we don't know. So for me, it's more about the process. I fully support the project. We need to move that project forward because I think it is a service that we need to give them the tools in order to execute on what they need to do. So I encourage everyone to go out and vote, and I will be voting yes on that DPW project on May 6th.
Thank you, Candidate Richards. Candidate Sharma, your thoughts.
So as I understand the DPW, some of the area like bathrooms, locker room, tool room, and the kitchen, they need the upgrade and modification, and we want that. But other than that, if you see in the last 5 years or more than that, the town is paying the continuously increasing tax. So most of the people who's going to affect with that, the low-income people, the seniors, they have fixed income, and they are mostly affecting all kind of changes which we are bringing in the town, new project or big cost project. So what I would like to suggest, like we should have conservative approach for dealing like the big project. We can do some kind of modification, we can upgrade some of the component, or maybe we can add a new extension. I own properties, I never did do the a whole building I'm going to renovate it completely and I'll move out my all tenants and do that job. We have to go by step by in the phases and deal with those issues there. Who going to pay this land? The total amount is $177 per taxpayer. So it's not like they are never, let's say, like the DPW also going to charge extra after when you're going to implement that, and then around $51 on the tax bill also will come extra. So it's going to affect the life of the low income and the fixed income people, and I would suggest the town should go with the extension, small extension, and that can help the town requirement.
Thank you, Candidate Sharma. Candidate Conlon.
Thank you. I support the renovation and upgrade of the DPW building on South Street. A year ago, the select board got together and we started this whiteboard exercise where we laid out all of our municipal facilities throughout town, and we looked at where we may need to make investments into those facilities, and we realized that the DPW facilities on South Street were crumbling. Our water garage is literally caving in at this point. It's over 75 years old, and it was a building that was not designed to last that long. It is well beyond its useful life. And the DPW garage, while it was built in the 70s, it was actually designed for future expansion. So it was a very progressive choice that the town made in the 70s when that building was built. And we have found ourselves at a point where our DPW has grown to service hundreds of miles of roadways, of water lines, sewer lines, and all of our facilities in town that all of us use every single day in the community. So we created the Municipal Facilities Optimization Committee to not just look at our DPW garage, but all of our municipal facilities and how we can put together a project to optimize the upgrades that we require right now. We have a long history of doing, what is most cost effective in Shrewsbury, but what we ended up with was a lot of deferred maintenance to our buildings and our infrastructure. And it became clear that it is time to upgrade this building. By combining the town hall, the DPW garage, and the water and sewer building, we are doing what is the most fiscally responsible path, because separating these projects would cost money to go out multiple times to the bond market, and phasing any parts of these projects would automatically trigger code compliance and ADA upgrades, which would ultimately cost the taxpayer more money in the long run. I encourage residents to visit the DPW garage and to vote yes on May 6th.
Thank you, Candidate Conlon, and thank you all candidates for the response to that question. I will pass it over to my friend Prabhav here for a question on another capital project.
Again, thank you, candidates, for your great responses. For the next question, it will be answered in the following order: Candidate Richards, Candidate Torres, Candidate Conlon, Candidate Hoagley, and finally, Candidate Sharma. Another capital project is looming in the background. Shrewsbury High School is severely overcrowded. It's about 600 students over capacity, according to modern design standards, and the school committee and select board have recently engaged with the MSBA to consider expanding the school. Though the MSDA could fund around 50% of the project, an expansion would inevitably lead to a debt exclusion vote. Will you support moving a Shrewsbury High School expansion forward? Why or why not?
I would say not at this time. I think if you look at the cost, and I believe what they were throwing out is an 80,000 square foot expansion and somewhere around 150 million. I know that number is very preliminary and there's not a lot of design. We haven't gone through and really understood what the needs are. But when you look at, if we're already going to go through this debt exclusion on the DPW building and then ask taxpayers to do that, the other part that is looming is, I believe at 2027, we're looking at an override, operational override as well. And to have all those line up, for the taxpayers, the burden, I think, is a little bit too great. The other thing I think we should look at is a few other parts from the school standpoint is, I know there are schools in the general area that do have capacity. I think there's some areas where we can get creative. We can communicate with other towns. I know Sutton High School has 400 capacity of 400 students that they're not utilizing. We have students who are really looking for maybe a more vocational program, and I know there is a program there with Leicester that we're also working with too, but that's only like 25 students. So I think we have to look at, are we really going to be fully utilizing that space for that high school? Are all the students in the high school? Should we not look at, a more creative approach and go outside of the bounds of what we historically have done, which is own and build and expand? So right now, I would say it would be, for me, it'd be a no. But I think, obviously this is going to play out over the next couple of years.
Thank you, Candidate Richards. Candidate Torres, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I have 2 young children that are in Shrewsbury Public Schools. I fully intend to continue to send them all the way through to the high school. And the overcrowding of the high school is top of mind, not only as a potential select board member, but also as a mother in town who is planning on sending her children to public schools. And last night I sat in at the tri-board meeting between the finance committee, the school committee, and the select board. It was really insightful to be able to hear the conversation. There is this push-pull, which needs to happen. It's healthy to happen, right? Is how do we give our community, our students, the best education that we can without creating a huge financial burden onto the taxpayers. I've also spoken to seniors in town or those on a fixed income, and they may not have children in the school system, and they say, hey, how does this affect me? In terms of weighing right now whether or not I would support something needs to be done. I think we can all agree on that. In terms of what that looks like, and again, based off of the way that I operate, I would need to have all of the information in front of me to be able to make a decision. It has been very informative sitting in on a lot of the town meetings, the select board meetings, and again, the tri-board meetings, going to the FinCom meetings that we had in March to learn about how these pros and cons are weighed. The high school was built with the intention of expansion. This was actually by design. The high school was designed to be expanded upon. In truth, I don't believe that it was intended to be overcrowded so quickly. I believe it was within 5 years of being constructed, it was overcrowded. But it was built with expansion in mind. If we're not going to go through with expanding the high school, I would just like to know, what are some alternative proposals, right? If we do not, we need to make sure that Shrewsbury remains a place where the education is top-notch. We have a high school student here moderating this debate. That speaks for itself, I think, as to our high level of education. And I don't believe that we can allow that to suffer.
Thank you, Candidate Torres. Candidate Conlon, your response.
Thank you. I voted at our meeting 2 weeks ago to continue along in the process that MSBA invited us to expand the high school. We are currently at a phase where we are gathering information, and we have to look at our population trends, enrollment trends, and study the needs of our school district and our students. It is early to make a determination on what the right project will be for the high school, but it is not debatable that the high school is overcrowded. It has been overcrowded almost since the day it opened. We have cannibalized every available space in the building for the required programming, and we do not have the ability in Shrewsbury to expand programs for our students to meet modern needs and modern demands of our community. We're unable to expand the program offerings, offer career pathways, because we don't have the space that we need in a building to offer those things. So while we know the building is overcrowded, and knowing that costs never come down, right now we have an opportunity to work with the Mass School Building Authority to potentially pay for half of the cost of expanding the school. What we have to decide as a community is what that project might look like and whether or not we as a community will support it. Personally, I think that it will be the right thing to do, but we have to identify the right project and the right way to expand it in order to serve the needs of our future generations in Shrewsbury.
Thank you, Candidate Conlon. Next, we'll go to Candidate Hoagley.
I think we're looking at these infrastructure projects too tactically. We need to really look at them strategically. What is the 5-10-year plan? How does that all roll in? If the high school had been built in a way that could have sustained the amount of enrolled students so many years ago, and no one really saw that we would be where we are today, I have to question how our government allowed for that. I mean, as a chief executive officer of a corporation, the buck stops with me on large decisions for the company, the success and the failure. And that's exactly the role that the select board is in. They are the chief executive officer overseeing this. Now, it's great that we have a committee doing this, but we have 38 committees in Shrewsbury. Generally, when you see a large expanse of committees within corporations, businesses, even towns, there is a absconding of responsibility from the executive in power. And I believe that's where we are right now with the select board. We have pushed decisions out to organizations that don't necessarily need to make those decisions. Those decisions need to come back. They need to be overseen more insightfully by the select board versus a group out. And if the municipal group, that committee is going to be the one that's going to take the helm on this next, I think we need to reel that in. Because again, if we're going to see what happened with DPW affect the high school, I don't want the next group of people up here in 5-10 years talking about, well, we didn't see that coming, we thought it was going to be enough money, oh, it's 2-3x. So thinking about who we want at the helm for this town to make these decisions is going to be incredibly important for this project and anything else that looks like it going forward. A lot of it falls on the enrollment data. How many students are we going to have? Have we looked at that holistically? What's the impact of development, further development, of bringing new students into an already overcrowded school system?
Thank you, Candidate Hoagley. Finally, Candidate Sharma.
So as you know, like our school system is totally congested. The teacher and student ratio is very high compared to the other towns. And if you see, because of that, we are not able to run too many innovative programs which we need for our kids for the future development. So why is this happening? Because if you look at the school system, currently we have around 1,800 students. And if you look at the future projection, we are allowing a lot of development. So at this point, I can say the development is influxing a lot of students in the town school system, and that creating the problem. So if you look at the projection from the Shrewsbury for 10-year projection for a school, the school student, the student in the school is declining. So in the 2031, there will be the 1,700 something student, and currently we have 1,800 students. So meantime, when we are going to start the building the school in 2027, and it's going to complete in 2030, and that time there is no need to we have the expansion for that. So we have to look at, first we have to control how we can, this development is going on, how can we stop that influx of the apartment or new development. And if we do that, we don't need the school expansion in the 2031. So if you see the chart on the website, you can look at the declining curves there. So thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Sharma, and thank you for all the candidates for your great responses. The next question will go in the following order: Candidate Hogley, Candidate Conlon, Candidate Torres, Candidate Sharma, and finally, Candidate Richards. We often see relatively low community feedback and engagement. It sometimes seems that people don't get involved unless it directly impacts them as a resident. What are some ways you would propose to boost community engagement, and how would you seek to involve people in the local government process?
Thank you. I think, like I said earlier, right, 85% of our town doesn't vote locally in local elections. It's par for the course for other municipalities and towns across the United States, but that doesn't mean we should be happy with it. We should really try to push for more local involvement. I think there's a couple ways to do that, but the importance of it is the things that happen closer to home are the things that actually matter more, importantly, to us as homeowners, voters, residents. We can talk about things at the state and the federal level all we want, but local taxes actually impact us much more. Property taxes, things that we decide to do inside of our town. I don't see the state or the federal government worrying about conservation lands necessarily in our space, or protecting wetlands, or doing trash pickup. One thing that I want to see happen, that's up to us as a town, as a community. Those are things that we can do. I think how we do outreach needs to change. And I think we're on the path, but there's, I think, a considerable amount to be done. Everybody, I see, at least 10 people here currently looking at their phones. That is how most Americans get their information. It is on that little black box. We need to make our information out of the town incredibly user-friendly on that device. If you looked at Shrewsbury's website right now, I can tell you there are at least 5 things that are glaringly wrong with the user interface of that page. The translate button moves, the logons is in the wrong spot. We need to make these systems that we produce, the data and the information for the towns, much more easily accessible and understood. And it's not good enough to just throw the data out there and say, we've provided the information to the town, why can't the voters understand it? We need to decipher that, we need to analyze it, we need to present it in a much better way. And we need to do more tangible, bite-sized pieces of information. I believe we need a social media manager for the town that's much more impactful than where they are today, to bring smaller tidbits, smaller impactful things, videos, and other forms of information through those vehicles to town members so they can better understand what we're dealing with in the town.
Thank you, Candidate Hogley. Candidate Conlon, you have the floor.
Thank you. I think local engagement is absolutely critical in our community. One of my favorite things that I do as a select board member and as a scouting parent is I teach merit badge classes. And one of the things that I teach is citizenship in the community. And we talk about your responsibilities as a citizen. What are your duties and responsibilities as a United States citizen? And that is to vote, and to get informed and get engaged in your community. And just the other responsibility is to serve on a jury of your peers, for those who might be curious. But voting and getting informed and engaged in your community is everybody's responsibility. As a select board member, our responsibility is making sure that we're providing a multitude of ways for those residents to gather information, find ways to get them involved, and to make everybody feel welcome and understood and heard in the community. The decisions that we make at Town Hall affect every aspect of our lives in town. In the last 3 years, we've created 3 new committees that give residents new ways to shape the future of our town. I spearheaded an effort to change the way the Select Board appoints new members to our committees, ensuring that there is always room for new voices and a diversity of thought to get involved in our town. We've hired a communications coordinator who has started a quarterly newsletter that gets mailed to every single household in town. Because while many of us use digital technology to access information, not everybody does. But every resident in our community has a right to understand what we're doing and what's going on in our community. So we have a newsletter that goes to every household in town. We've increased and improved our website and our digital communications and our social media presence. And we've worked on with workshops to encourage members of the community to get involved in town meeting by explaining how you can run, how you can get involved, and demystifying the process of town meeting. Because the more people we get engaged in our community and the more voices are heard, the stronger we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Conlon. Candidate Torres, you have the floor.
Thank you. So community engagement is obviously key, and getting community members to feel as though they're stakeholders in the community and they're a part of the community is absolutely key. I don't believe that we can say to people, here's the information, and this is the way in which we're going to give it to you. We have to be much more collaborative and ask residents in town, how do you want to receive information? Just today I was at Francis Gardens and having a conversation with some folks this afternoon. This is a group of older folks, and I said to them, how do you want to receive information about town? And they said, I can't figure out this email thing, but I really like this YouTube thing, right? So they like to receive their information more that way, through videos. I would argue that there's also a very strong, there should be a very strong push to put every single public meeting into podcast form. So people can listen to it while they're driving, they don't have to stare at a screen. That long format, those longer podcasts are definitely more popular now in terms of how people absorb information. But again, community engagement is really key, meeting people where they're at, going to every, or as many as we can, people in our community from diverse cultures, diverse populations, not just the people that are already engaged. The people in this room, the people watching, you're already engaged in municipal politics, right? You're already engaged in what's happening in the town. How do we reach those people that are still affected in the same way, right, with our municipal services, our taxes, but they may not feel as though they're engaged in our community? Those are the people that I would look, to, I would seek out and say, hey, how do you feel about this DPW project? I've spoken to residents in town when I'm knocking on doors, and some of them have never heard of it. And, I do think Taylor Galusha has done a fantastic job of getting more information out there. We do have social media. She is sending out newsletters. I think it's, especially since I've moved into town, it's gotten much, much better. But again, we really need to be able to meet voters, or meet residents rather, not just voters, meet residents where they're at in terms of how they wish to receive information.
Thank you, Candidate Torres. Candidate Sharma, you also have the floor.
So, as everyone knows, this is a big problem. Like we have issue with the, whenever we have town meeting member, our member didn't show up for when we are taking the decision about the town welfare. Other thing also, I part of so many different community organization. I'm looking for volunteers. Very hard to get the volunteer to come and support us. So those two kind of things is going in the town right now. So maybe we have some gap between where we are approaching to the town residents or volunteers or town meeting member. So I would like to suggest a few, we have to, there's some better communication, some kind of information we can send regularly. Most of them are not sitting on the social media. Even some of them even don't watch what is going on the social media. So few percent we can cover on the social media, few will notify using the letters or something. Or I would also suggest some digital signage. or every corner of the town, 4 or 5 places when we have town entering or existing, we can put the signage, say today or tomorrow is the voting day, please do cast your vote. If we kind of apply those kind of efforts, that could help, that people will come and we can join the part of the system. So we want that. We also want to, those people who are not coming regularly as a town meeting member, we can tell them, warn them, they should be the part of that one. Yesterday there was like a town meeting member meeting, but there only few were present when we were taking the decision about the DPW. So this should change. We should create the awareness. We should involve them to take the right decision for our town betterment.
Thank you, Candidate Sharma. Finally, Candidate Richards.
Yeah, thank you. First thing I think we need to do is we got to take down some of these barriers we're putting in place to prevent public participation. There's a policy 31 on the select board that I would immediately get rid of, where you have to ask for permission to come and speak in front of a select board meeting. Every one of the committees that we have should have public comment where you don't have to actually ask permission to speak. You should reserve 15 minutes. If you want to come and voice an issue related in their purview, you should be able to come and speak without having to get permission ahead of time. Those are artificial barriers. The other thing is the meeting information, planning board meetings specifically, should be provided to the public before the meetings. There's many planning board meetings I've been to where the public is asking for a chart or something that's on the screen, and they weren't given access ahead of time. So we have to give people who are interested the information to participate. The other thing is how we do appointments. You know, a lot of people in town, I believe, would want to participate in committees, myself included. However, I haven't been appointed. Two that I've applied for, neither one I've been appointed for. And as a select board member, I would commit to interviewing and calling anybody who applied for a position. Because when I applied for a position, only one select board member called me to have a conversation. So how are we going to encourage participation or understand why people are interested if we don't have conversations with them? I just don't think that's acceptable. The biggest thing is I think we just have a sales problem. I mean, being a vice president of sales, I don't think we do a very good job of selling to the public. That is the primary focus, I think, of our government is we should be doing a better job. How do we sell ideas? How do we get the messaging out there? And that's a sales problem. And to the point is there isn't a lot of time for people to go back and look at minutes from meetings. And I think we could look at something, maybe some video or other ways to actually do kind of a summary to at least allow people to say, here's what happened in last night's meeting. I think those are things we could probably do to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Richards, and thank you for all the candidates for your thoughtful response on this question. I'll now hand it back to Evan for more questions.
Perfect. The next question will be answered in the following order. Candidate Sharma, Candidate Richards, Candidate Hoagley, Candidate Conlon, and Candidate Torres. It's about a topic that was discussed as recently as yesterday. Shrewsbury is currently in the midst of its fiscal 2026 budget process. Shrewsbury overrides have lasted longer than promised, but as the town draws down on the override stabilization fund in upcoming years, it appears that Shrewsbury will face budget deficits. Over your 3-year term, how will you handle the aforementioned deficits? What type of role do you think the select board takes in the budget-making process, should take in the budget-making process, and how would you evaluate a potential Prop 2.5 override question sometime in the near future?
See, like we have a around 190 million budget. That total, our taxes coming from 150 million from the from the property tax. But if you overall see the 48% around is going to on the education, and remaining 24 million is going to on the DPW for like water and sewer. So we are basically have not too much space. Like we have only limited revenue, and we are almost hand to mouth. Like whatever we are generating, what we are serving is not too much gap. First, second thing is again 20% of the money coming from the state funding. If that going to change, our budget is not like going to complete whatever our requirement. So as a if I'm selected as a select board, I will use the conservative approach. I will not spend the money where I don't need it. For example, DPW, we can go for some kind of modification or modified it, some kind of extension, upgrade, but I will not go for like 42.4 million like expansion to complete. So that's other things like we have taxpayer income also, we have limited taxpayer income, and that we can't increase every time when we can say we need a 2.0 override for the school, we need 2.0 override for DPW or other processes. So this process is continuously going on. This is not a sustainable economy for the town. We need it. We need the budget where we can get the good amount of money which we can spend and we can save for our future expenses also, which we want to use for development or for like betterment of the road condition at this point is very bad. Like if you go to Carter Road, Walnut Street, voters or residents complaining. They say, can you fix my road? I can give you the vote. Those kind of situation here. And that's because our budget is not efficient. We need proper budget allocation for whatever resources we have. And we have to come with the innovative plan so that way we can help us.
Thank you, Candidate Sharma. Candidate Richards, you're next.
Yeah, one thing I think we have to look at is, you look at the Prop 2.5. It's 2.5% increase, right, on our tax levy in a given year. And if you really go back and look at the budget, and I actually asked Kevin Mizikar, I said, what is a realistic number that we can increase in a given year? And he said 4.25. So when you look at what we actually have to spend money on, and a lot of that is staffing, right? Majority of what we have in a town is staffing. So if the health insurance and all the benefits and everything to support the staffing is a big portion of that, I think we really have to kind of look at how can we take and reduce a 4.25 increase on year-over-year basis when we're only getting a 2.5% override and trying to prevent future overrides. So I think we really have to look at what is making up those budgets and actually not budget or try to squeeze, let's say, some of the departments on what those budgets will be in a given year. So we shouldn't be going up or just automatically saying, well, I'm going to go up 4.25% if we only have 2.5% to work with. So that's one area I think we really have to look at is, are we effectively looking at what's making up that budget, and are we actually going back and trying to get back closer to the 2.5 to try to extend that further? Because I think we have to figure out what kind of a community we want to be, because we have to decide if we're going to continue to do overrides and become a more community like a Weston or a Wellesley, or do we want to be a community that will support everybody and be able to have people from all socioeconomic backgrounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Richards. Candidate Hoagley.
I think obviously overrides and using that needs to be a level of last resort. I'll harp on this again. Looking at the role of the select board as the chief executive as outlined by Massachusetts Municipal Association and what we're doing with that role, where is the insight to the line item budget or the departmental budgets within the town? I believe the way that we're operating is we're giving too much power to the town manager to affect and have that type of insight. Now, the select board is not supposed to be involved in the day-to-day operations of the town, and that's not what I'm advocating for. What I am advocating for is much better insight into town budget at a departmental level. When you look at, and I forget the gentleman's name on the finance committee, but he brought this up, why don't we have more departmental budget reviews and approvals? We do more of a holistic town budget. Town manager presents a total budget. What's in there is what's in there. Do we approve the overall budget? We need to look inside of this budget a little deeper and say maybe this year the fire department has a higher budget than last year and the police department does not, just as an example. That's not the approach that we're taking, and I don't believe that that's going to be a sustainable approach for managing our funds and handling any type of expansion. If we continue to develop, if we continue to grow schools, we're going to need other infrastructure to be able to support all of these things. And we're going to have to make decisions year to year that are going to be different from year to year. We need to kind of get away and back off from that holistic view. I believe that we need a level of audit that reports into the select board itself. Every business, every organization, every government has some type of internal audit, and that should be reporting directly into the select board so that we have that insight and we know where we're putting the money is where we're expecting the money to be. And I believe, lastly, maybe to just help out staying away from overrides and other things, we need to increase our commercial tax base. We're predominantly dependent on residential taxes for our revenue stream.
Thank you, Candidate Hoagley. Candidate Conlon.
Thank you. Proposition 2.5 was instituted in 1980 in response to ballooning municipal budgets across the Commonwealth. Shrewsbury was an exception to that experience in the community. We always have had an extremely low municipal budget. And so when Proposition 2.5 was instituted, we were starting at a place much lower than many comparable communities. Because of the growth that we experienced in the community through the 90s and early 2000s especially, we had all this new money coming in every year, and we were able to avoid ever having to ask for an override. And when the state changed the way that they fund our municipal and school budgets in 2007, 2008, it created a really chaotic budget process for our community. So Proposition 2.5 was designed initially to force communities to tighten their belts year after year and give the power to the people to decide when it's necessary to make new investments into our community, and to give people the opportunity to say, this is what I want my community to offer, this is what I want my schools to look like, how I want them to be funded. And so it gave that power back to the people. Since the 2021 operational override, the Select Board has made very careful financial decisions to extend the life of the override from what was initially anticipated to be 4 years to 7 years. So with aggressively pursuing grants and alternative funding sources, streamlining services, and reducing redundancy at Town Hall, we have been able to set money aside that we otherwise could have spent on our operating budgets to extend that life of that override. The last 2 years, we have consecutively had commercial growth outpace residential development. So with careful investment and expanding our commercial tax base, especially pursuing high-value commercial projects like high-tech engineering and manufacturing, we have an opportunity to ask the community when they want our services to look like and when they want to make that investment in our community.
Thank you, Candidate Conlon. Candidate Torres, last but not least.
Thank you. So for me, the most insightful piece into diving line by line, department by department into the budget was really the Finance Committee meetings that were held in March that I attended, and I also watched those that I weren't able to attend because of kids' sports. I think we can all relate to that. But those were really insightful, and you hear from these departments that they may need or request more money, but they're really working on lean budgets. So when we talk about, well, we need to keep our budget lean, we need to keep our budget lean, I do believe that Shrewsbury has done a very good job of being fiscally conservative. We have that reputation as a town for a reason. If we really dive into what's going to happen in the future with a potential override question in a couple of years from now, we have to recognize a couple of things. First off, it's really up to the town to decide. Do we want this override? It's not up to the 5-person select board. It's not up to the Finance Committee to decide, right? It's up for the town at large to decide. If they don't vote in favor of an override, it just needs to be understood that things are going to give. It's a push and a pull. And we're not alone in this. Shrewsbury is not isolated in Massachusetts, and I would argue probably nationally as well, that there's a constant push and pull between having a tight budget but maintaining municipal services, educational services for the town. So if we're not looking to increase the amount that the town is willing to spend, something has to be taken away from. You know, it's my understanding from listening to school committee members, having spoken to them, there are programs that have been cut from the high school that have never been brought back. And if we are just continuing to try to take things away, I think it's important to recognize as a community that's going to affect the schools. It's also going to affect our property values. So yes, our property values would go down, which may result in lower taxes. I don't believe that's necessarily what we want. It has to be a balancing act, right? It has to be a balancing act between the good of the community and what would happen if we didn't pass an override.
Thank you, Candidate Torres. The next two questions both concern development in Shrewsbury. We'll ask everyone a question regarding commercial development first, followed by a question regarding residential development and affordable housing. So please keep that in mind and plan your responses accordingly. The first question will be answered in the following order: Candidate Conlon, Candidate Sharma, Candidate Torres, Candidate Richards, and Candidate Hoagley. Development has been perhaps the hot-button issue in Shrewsbury lately. In particular, several commercial projects are either approved or awaiting approval. To name some examples, the Clinton Street project, the FedEx warehouse, and a proposed gas station across from Market Basket. The Select Board may not always have a direct say in many of these projects, especially if they're on private land. Still, generally, what would your strategy be when it comes to commercial development? What types of commercial developments would you be inclined to support? And what types of commercial projects would you not be inclined to support? So, Candidate Conlon, that goes to you first.
Thank you. As I mentioned, the last 2 years, we, for the first time, have had 2 consecutive years where commercial development has outpaced residential development. It's incredibly important to grow our commercial base in Shrewsbury, as it costs the town less money, essentially, to have commercial spaces than it does to have residential spaces. And commercial property is the only place in town where they're not just taxed on the land and the building, but they're also taxed on the personal property inside of those buildings. So, like I mentioned, high-tech manufacturing and things like that are really desirable projects to have brought into Shrewsbury. We've brought a few in over the last few years that I'm really excited about, including Physique Instrumente. We have a project, high-tech manufacturing at Centec North. And so in the last few years, we have reinvigorated the Shrewsbury Development Corporation, which is focused on finding those commercial projects that we want to have in Shrewsbury and bringing them to town. We have also looked at some of our zoning laws and what current businesses need in our current climate, what they need in order to thrive in Shrewsbury, and making sure that our zoning aligns with the needs of the types of businesses that we want to bring into town. We have to be careful with our zoning. We are currently losing a lot of commercial space to 40B development in town, so we have to look at our residential needs in the community so that we can meet that 10% requirement from the state, so that we can focus more on sustainable, responsible commercial development.
Thank you, Candidate Conlon. Candidate Sharma, you're up.
So, as you everyone know, the 13% is coming from the commercial levy. So, we need a commercial, more commercial in the town, so the taxpayer can have less amount of the burden. But what we have to do for this one? We don't want to cut our trees. We have so much existing space which we can use for the small business owner, to call them, and they can explore. We can invite the other businesses. They have less impact on the environment, and those also are a good candidate to come in the town and can increase our tax revenue. Also, I would not like to, we are cutting so many trees and we are not planting a single tree in the town. So we are losing our green space. So I am, as an environmental friendly and sustainable development supporter, I would like to approach where we can have enough infrastructure from maybe the builder who's coming build it, or supporting our sustainable development approach. So that kind of help on the commercial development. And I would like to go for that. So we have a lot of space you can see where we can, you can see downtown center is totally no one there. We have to develop that area so people can come and sit and drink the coffee. We can have some revenue from those areas also. But we are not approaching this way, so I would suggest we can go for some commercial development, but same time we have to keep in mind whatever infrastructure, city or state or the company which is taking the plot or lot, they are providing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Sharma. Candidate Torres.
Thank you. So in terms of commercial development, as a member and vice president of the Shrewsbury Development Corporation, we're currently involved in looking at the town center and Route 2140 corridor. I think it's really important to balance things that I've heard from residents. We don't want more trucks. We don't want more warehouses, right? What is it going to be in terms of commercial space? We all know that commercial taxes will help to ease the burden onto our residents, right? Ease the burden off of them so that our commercial tax base is paying more of their share. But we also want to make sure we're doing things that the town actually wants, that the residents actually want. So for me, I would want space in town that the residents say, yes, we want coffee shops, we want restaurants, we want breweries, things that we can go to with our families, right? Things that are walkable. I would also want commercial space in town that isn't just trucking or warehouses, something that we're actually able to tax on the inside their personal property as well, because there are millions of dollars worth of taxes if we can get a very valuable commercial space in or a commercial company in that we can tax their personal property, so the property that's on the inside of those buildings. But I think ultimately it really is, again, going back to the residents and listening to what they're looking for so we can help to foster the type of commercial development in town that the residents actually want to see. As much as we want to build up our commercial tax base, again, we really have to weigh that in terms of what the residents are looking for. Not every resident wants to just see all of these commercial buildings go up, even if it does help to ease the tax burden. It really is a push and a pull. So weighing, again, what residents are looking for with what we're looking to do financially with the town, it's very important.
Thank you, Candidate Torres. Candidate Richards.
Yeah, I think this goes back to we have to make a decision on the type of town we want to be. If you go back and you look at history, there was a few zoning changes that were made, and some of the comments of some past select board members were we need to remain competitive against neighboring communities, but I think we should be competing for quality of life. And one of the things I really advocate for is working with planning to actually try to minimize as-of-right zoning. I think there's a lot of areas that, because of the way our zoning is written, we don't have a lot of say of what gets developed there. Now, we've changed zoning at town meeting a few times and allowed as-of-right uses such as the warehouse project, and if those were special permit, that would give the planning board, which is appointed, right, the ability to make decisions based off of impacts to such as things like the character and the quality of life and the quality and character of our community. Where right now, we don't have the choice, we don't have the ability to reject any of those projects because of the way our zoning's written. So that's one area I would advocate for, at least working to try to minimize some of the as-of-right zoning. I think the commercial development, where it makes sense, is helpful. It does offset the burden that would go onto the schools with the increased tax base. But like I said, I think we want to have control, and I think the people who are here already, the existing residents, should have a lot more say into that, and I think some fundamental changes in zoning would really help us get down that path.
Thank you, Candidate Richards. Candidate Hoagley.
Yeah, I believe the increase in commercial is going to be something that we really need to look at. I'm not advocating, do it at all costs, completely offset the tax base for residents. We really do, like Greg said, we really do need to figure out what kind of town do we want to be. What do we want to look like? What do we want to look like in 10 years, in 50 years? And if you strategically look at the land that we have, we only have 20 square miles, I believe, that we're working with within Shrewsbury. What do we want filled up? Do we want more warehouses? Probably not, because that brings along with it the logistics and the infrastructure impacts from trucking. Do we want more retail? Sure, but how do we incentivize those types of businesses? It's not enough to just say, we want more businesses downtown. What are we doing to bring in that coffee shop? Coffee shops are not just set them up and you think they're successful. They're hard work. Sometimes they don't work out. If it was so easy to have a coffee shop and have that type of thing, why isn't Starbucks right there in downtown? That is a prime idea and a prime capability, but they're not, because there is a lot that goes into deciding where retail businesses go. Why can't we do some type of incentive, a tax break? Bring in, go out. Why can't the town manager, why can't the select board advocate for the town and go out into the business community and try to then attract those businesses in that we want, that the residents want? We've touted that commercial has outpaced housing the last 2 years, but is it that commercial has really increased or has housing slowed? I think that's a very important distinction to make, because over the next couple of years, are we going to see that same type of change? The promise of affordable housing in 40B has not matched the outcomes, and I think the last you had a great point on them. The last time that they showed up about planning, I think the group that sat in front of them basically says, well, we just don't do 40B. And this came out right after the special election. So I think we need to be a little bit more conscious about the types of zoning and the types of rules that we're putting out for housing.
Thank you, Candidate Hoagley. And I do want to touch on 40B more with this next question. Over the past few months, the Select Board has had several conversations regarding 40B projects. I think the most recent was probably 409 South. Currently, Shrewsbury is below the 10% subsidized housing inventory threshold to get what they call safe harbor from 40B projects. Though the Select Board has negotiated with some, in quotes, friendly developers, like the old Emerald Run project, for example, being below the affordable unit threshold leaves the town vulnerable to unfriendly, something like a 104 Main Street, an unfriendly development, which can build housing without much input from the community whatsoever. It's a long introduction to a pretty simple question. What are your thoughts on the housing market in Shrewsbury, and do you think Shrewsbury's in a position to meet this 10% goal in the near future? What types of housing would you advocate for as a Shrewsbury Select Board member, and what are your view on residential developments more generally? Candidate Richards, sorry if I didn't mention beforehand, you're up first.
Yeah, this is a good question. And yeah, just to kind of reiterate back to where we were, just keep in mind that because we put our MBTA zone right on top of where a 40B development was, we lost 52 affordable units, and we lost, say, 270, say, more market rate $300,000 to $500,000 units versus now we got 112, $750,000 to $780,000 units. And we went from a 25% affordability to a 15% affordability. So I think what we need to look at is that there's a lot of money available at the state. And I think we should look at how do we get a very high affordable unit development. Could be 100% affordable, could be 75% affordable, and actually some affordability that's truly affordable. The 80% AMI is not that truly affordable. We need to look at, is there other alternatives to, say, deeply affordable, lower income housing where we can actually get closer to that 10% safe harbor much quicker? Because I don't think we're going to get there by just having, whether it's either another 40B at 25% or just a 10% or 15% throughout the MBTA zoning. So I would really support getting creative and working and trying to get some of those state dollars that are available to actually look at working with the developer on a very, very high, maybe even 100% affordable unit that could allow us to get there. In terms of residential, I think we always want to support development. I mean, the thing about in our town is I think we're kind of running out of empty space when it comes to residentially zoned areas. But I think we should always support, if there are new developments or home developments that come in. I think it's an important aspect of continuing to draw people into our community.
Perfect. And sorry to put you on the spot there. We'll finish this question with Candidate Hoagley, Candidate Torres, Candidate Conlon, and Candidate Sharma. So, Candidate Hoagley.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, of course. It was a loaded one, huh? What are your thoughts on the housing market in Shrewsbury? And do you think Shrewsbury's in a position to meet this 10% safe harbor threshold? What type of residential development would you support?
Yeah, I think if we go the way that it's been going, I don't know if we'll be able to meet that threshold. But obviously, it's our duty as a town government to figure out a way to make that happen. I don't have an answer for that. And I'll be honest, real estate, housing, not exactly my strength. We're all allowed to admit and acknowledge that we are not great at everything. I'm not great at everything. This is one area that I would look at more experts in this space to be able to weigh in on and take their advice if get elected to the select board. From a housing standpoint, obviously you want affordable housing, but I'll tell you this, I moved to Shrewsbury because I liked the way it was. I liked the way it was built. I liked that there wasn't a tremendous amount of development. I liked the town that was built as we saw it. So I might be a little biased in the sense that I wouldn't really like to see a tremendous amount of development. And I've knocked on now close to 1,000 doors in my campaign, and I can say that a lot of people I've talked to believe the same thing. They don't want to see a ton of houses squeezed in at every little corner, older houses leveled for two houses to then go up. It changes the community. It changes the place that you lived. It's where you grew up, where you've built your home. So I think we need to really listen to residents a little bit more about where is development going to be. One of my friends is in the audience right here. That new area that's going to be built is going in right on South Street, going in towards his house. It's going to have a tremendous impact on the place that he bought and built his house. Is now going to forever change than when he moved in. And I think that's something that people just don't take into consideration that we need to.
Thank you, Candidate Hoagley. Candidate Torres, to you.
Thank you. So I am a residential real estate attorney by trade, which gives me a lot of insight into the real estate market, not only in Shrewsbury, but it really in the Commonwealth as a whole. And there is a massive housing shortage in the entire state. That is the reason that the state has put forth the MBTA zoning as well as 40B. So the intention behind it, from what I've been told, is to create more housing, to create more available housing for people. People want to live in Shrewsbury. It's a very, very desirable community. We all live here because we want to live here, right? In terms of 40B, I do believe that it would be exceptionally difficult for the town to hit the 10% threshold. I would actually argue for the town to try to hit the smaller threshold to give us a break, right? So we don't have to hit just 10% to be under safe harbor forever. If we increase our housing by 0.5%, we do have safe harbor for a shorter amount of time. If we increase our housing by 1%, we have a 2-year safe harbor, which would give the town enough time to be able to formulate more of a plan in terms of how we're going to handle residential development. So I would actually propose that we're looking at these smaller increments. The town, based off of, I believe, September of last year, was at about 6%. If we can work towards these more incremental, more manageable jumps of housing, we would have safe harbor from 40Bs. But it is worth remembering that we really don't have a say in terms of the 40B. The goal, obviously, is to be able to work with a 40B developer, but it's really a goal. It's not our right to be able to do that in the eyes of the Commonwealth. I would like to see as many 40Bs be quote-unquote friendly as we can, meaning the town can work with the developer on aesthetics and things like that. We can't dictate to the developers what to put in. The only thing we can do is to try to have the most amicable relationships possible until we can reach safe harbor.
Thank you, Candidate Torres. Now to the other side of the table to Candidate Conlon.
Thank you. In Massachusetts, we are bound by mandates from the state for housing and development with things like 40B and MBTA communities. In the last few years, Shrewsbury has established an affordable housing trust and a community preservation committee in order to actively pursue and build and preserve affordable housing in the community. And we have updated our housing production plan, putting together a longer-term plan for how we will manage development in Shrewsbury sustainably and responsibly, and how we can attempt to pursue the 10% minimum affordable housing that we're mandated to have by the state. We don't have control over predatory development that happens until we meet that minimum. We do have the option, though, of working with developers who are coming in on friendly 40Bs, putting together a LIP with them in order to give the town a seat at the table and shape some of what the development will look like, and to make sure that Shrewsbury is also reaping some of the benefits from those developments, whether it's updating our infrastructure, building sidewalks, granting the town pieces of land for development or for conservation or for trails or open space. And internally, we are studying land use in Shrewsbury, and I have spearheaded an effort to inventory undeveloped land in Shrewsbury so that we can study what land we can target for conservation and preservation within the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Conlon. Candidate Sharma.
So I have heard 40B every time, like when new apartment is coming, they are saying, oh, we are going to fulfill the requirement of 40B. Some of the cases also, I noticed the builder give the some lump sum grant, and then he move from that status of the 40B. So this process is going on. I think the builder is not going to fulfill the 40B requirement, which we have currently for affordable housing. Initially, when we are working on affordable housing trust, I gave my idea. We have so many small houses, they are unused in the town. We can use those houses, make a duplex, using the money from the housing authority, money from the CPA, money from the some money from the trust. And that money we can use to build the duplex kind of houses, and we can provide the seniors or affordable people, those that don't have enough funding. So that kind of suggestion I gave. We have 300 houses from the Housing Authority, 250 vouchers from the Section 8 voucher from the state government, but still we are not able to afford the whatever our seniors or maybe low-income people are looking for housing. So that could be one of the best solutions. Like we have those houses, we can put them, or builder we have to make clearly tell them like this is a 10% contract, and we are not going to modify in the future even if they are going to put the grant. So that could be one of the solutions which I suggest before also, and if I selected, I will do that same thing for that. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Sharma. Thank you all for your responses. I'm going to pass it over to Prabhav for the last full question of the night prior to closing statements.
As everyone was saying, for the final question of the night, the order will go candidate Torres, candidate Conlon, candidate Sharma, candidate Hoagley, and finally candidate Richards. Being on the select board is not an easy job. What skills or experiences do you have that qualify you to make decisions on running municipalities? How would these skills serve to benefit the select board and ultimately the residents of Shrewsbury?
Thank you. That's perhaps the best question. A few different things I would argue qualify me as a terrific select board member. So first and foremost, being a mother, having to balance the needs of my kids with my work, with being married, with family obligations. It's a lot, but they always say if you want to get something done, ask a busy person, and having a very, very well-managed schedule is something that I pride myself on. Being an attorney and being able to really bifurcate the emotional side of things from the logical decision-making piece. I am also extremely used to hearing adverse positions on issues. It's what I do every single day. And finding a solution in the middle that maybe not both sides are 100% happy, but everyone has found a resolution that they can all live with and agree upon. I also am very used to listening to people where emotions are extremely high. And I would welcome anyone to come and speak to me, even if we disagree on everything that we talk about. We can agree to disagree and have a very thoughtful conversation. I meant what I said at the beginning, that I fully recognize representing a town of almost 40,000 people is no small feat. And I would be a fool to think that every person in town is going to agree with me. That it will never happen, right? But making sure that everyone feels heard and feels listened to is extremely valuable. I'm also a partner at my law firm. I do have to balance budgets. I do have to hire people. I'm also a female in law, and I'm also a female partner. So I work in an extremely male-dominated field. I know what it feels like to feel underrepresented and really unseen and walk into a room and have people think that you're one thing when you're not. I understand that feeling, which I feel makes me much more open to being able to listen to all the different voices in our community. I'll always keep an open mind, and I'll always look at issues really unbiased and taking in all credible information sources.
Thank you, candidate Torres. Candidate Conlon, you have the floor.
Thank you. I have a background in water resources and watershed management, and I've spent my adult life volunteering to make sure that our world, and particularly Shrewsbury, is a kind of place where we want to live, whether it's to protect the environment, enhance our schools, support children and families, ensure mental health services are available for all, or to have better municipal facilities and services. I served on the board of directors at Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services, which provides affordable or low or no cost mental health services to all members of our community. I volunteered in our schools with youth groups and town sports, and I volunteered for nearly a decade for an environmental group focused on cleaning up the Blackstone River watershed. It's not an easy job to be on the select board, and one of the most important things that you can do as a select board member is to have an open mind and be willing to hear residents, to understand their perspective, what their needs are, to make sure that you're focused on protecting our most vulnerable residents in the community, to make sure that you're not afraid to listen to different perspectives and maybe change your outlook on things. I didn't come to the select board to push my agenda and my views on the town. I came to the select board to represent members of our entire community and make sure that all people are supported and heard and have an opportunity to thrive.
Thank you, candidate Conlon. Candidate Sharma, your response.
Yeah, so my professional experience, as you know, I'm an engineer. My background also MBA. I worked with the MIT Lincoln Lab, where I do serve the U.S. Defense, and other than that, I worked with the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston in the finance department. So simultaneously I run a small business. I know how to business flow in and out of the business. Where I can save the money, where I can use it And I have a lot of community engagement also. I know what is the people's problem, how they are suffering. I'm going to door to door. I already covered more than 1,000 doors, and I can see the suffering of the people. They are complaining. They have issues. And I understand from the first hand, like as a ground, when I'm going to walk them, serving as a community, different even as a volunteer, I know the issues. So those skill set which I have, they can help take the better decision. They can help in understanding the problem. They can also help to get the right goal for betterment of the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Sharma. Candidate Hogley, you have the floor.
I believe I have the skill set and the experience for local government. Something I learned when I was younger and when I made Eagle Scout was when in a position to lead, lead. And that's what I expect out of a select board member. Currently as a CEO and formerly as a national security advisor, I've worked within the federal government managing $100 million budgets, working to defend the country against adversaries foreign. I've led these types of programs having to make hard decisions, listening to those that have opinions that I disagree with and listening to those that have opinions that I do agree with. And it is not for me that the decision is made, but for the betterment of the organization. And that is how I look at when I run my company as the CEO, and that is how I would look at my role as a select board member. I'm a problem solver. That's really all I do, day in and day out. I have a strategic mindset, asking tough questions, identifying gaps, and implementing practical solutions. I'm pretty methodical and pragmatic in my approach at looking at facts and data, and I bring that to all the decisions that I make. I'm really looking at this as a community-first approach. I've been a long-time resident, although I know some saying that moving here in 2015 doesn't make me a long-time resident, but I feel like it is. I'm a parent and a taxpayer. And at the end of all of this, I am not here for politics. I am here to ensure that the town works better for all of us.
Thank you, Candidate Hogley. Finally, Candidate Richards.
Yeah, thank you. My experience as the Vice President of Sales, Vice President of Sales of a $750 million company. You know, I manage P&Ls. I have a lot of employees that work with me, for me. And, I've had to make a lot of tough decisions. When the economy turns down, business softens, we have to make tough decisions that impact people's families. And those are hard things to do. Here when I've been in Shrewsbury, I've spent a lot of time digging into the local issues. I've put messaging out there. I've stood for other residents in the community. And I'm really doing it because I really believe that everybody who lives in Shrewsbury should have the best experience in Shrewsbury. We should all be able to be successful. We should all be heard. And, those experiences are me at the planning board meetings or, watching hours and hours of tape just to give people an alternate perspective on things. I think that's one area that I can really help. I don't fear being the dissenting opinion. I think we need to have more debate. We need to bring more issues up in the meetings. When the select board is discussing things, I think there should be more deliberation, more conflict, not in a negative way. Conflict is good. Conflict is how we actually break through and we make, and actually improve as a group. I'd like to see more of that. So my sales background, too, I think is hugely successful. Like I mentioned before, being able to sell ideas to the community and bring ideas out and gain trust and improve that trust, I think that's a huge benefit of what I can bring to the table. So I appreciate the questions tonight, and I thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Richards, and thank you to all the candidates for answering the questions tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we wish we could do this all night, but if we could go from right to left on the viewer's perspective with a 1-minute closing statement, starting with Candidate Torres.
Thank you. Thank you again to the Community Advocate and SMC for hosting this forum tonight. I would once again like to thank the members of our community for coming here and engaging so that you can make the most informed decisions when you vote on May 6th. I want people to feel heard and recognized, and I want Shrewsbury to remain a place where each and every member of our community can flourish. If elected, I will always keep in mind that the decisions I will face as a member of the Select Board will have a direct effect on my neighbors, friends, teachers, and other residents in town who I might only ever bump into at Price Chopper. The role of a Select Board member demands many things, including thoughtful leadership, well-developed decision-making skills, and the ability to collaborate with others. However, I would argue that the most important quality for a Select Board member is the requisite desire to give back and serve the town as an act of compassion and love. I know that my hard skills as an attorney and small business owner will be very valuable if I was to be elected. However, my most valuable asset is my love for our community and desire to give back. It is with that level of passion to serve our town I respectfully and humbly ask for your vote on May 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Torres. Candidate Sharma.
Yeah, I'm running for select board because Shrewsbury is growing and we need careful community-focused leadership to ensure our town remain a great place and affordable for all. I have proudly served our community enough through various civic efforts. Based on that issues shared by our citizens, I have prioritized some areas. My priorities include provide necessary support for seniors so they can live comfortably, managing the smart growth with the new housing and development underway. I will advocate for responsible planning and address infrastructure, limit traffic flow and environmental impact on the town. Protecting taxpayer, rising the property tax are a concern for many residents. I support transparent budgeting, exploring cost-saving opportunities. Strengthening infrastructure, we need prioritize maintaining and upgrade existing roads condition, utilities, and public service without overdoing or under budgeting our system. Water is still a big issue for us to deal with that. Supporting for youth and families, and my professional experience and diverse perspective will help achieve these priorities. I believe open communication and decision making will help. So I respectfully ask all of you, please do vote for me on May 6th, and thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Candidate Sharma. Candidate Richards.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody here in attendance and everybody at home for watching. I know everyone is busy. I hope your questions were answered and that I earned your vote. Whether you vote by mail or in person on May 6th, I'm asking for your vote. My promise to you is I will not be a rubber stamp. I will always put residents first in decision-making, and I will be the voice of dissent when needed. I really look forward to serving the community. One of the most engaging things about this campaign was getting out to know residents, and I hope I get to meet many more. If you want to learn more about me, or support my campaign, you can go to gregrichards.org. That's Greg with 2 G's, gregrichards.org. My contact information is there. Feel free to email me or call me on my cell phone. And although I'm not the chosen one, I hope you will select me. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Richards. Candidate Hoagley.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and watching at home and on replay probably later. I also want to thank my wife and my daughter for supporting me in this, my friends and my family and my neighbors. When I look at what we're trying to do here, just as a government, there's things that we don't need, the things that we want, and the things that we need. What I believe we don't need is more of the same. What I've heard from residents as I've been going door to door is they want to see a change, a real change in how our government is led and overseen. What we want is actually what I want. I want to be select board member. I want to be a leader that you can trust, that you can go to, and you can see an effect within your community. But what Shrewsbury needs is an effective, articulate, clear leader who can step in and direct the future of the town based on what we're looking for today. You can find any of my information at votehoagley.com. I ask for your vote on May 6th. And if not for your vote, please just go vote on May 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Hoagley. And the final comment of the night goes to Candidate Conlon.
Thank you to our hosts, Prabhav, the community advocate, and Shrewsbury Media Connection, and thank you to our community for engaging in this election. Like I said, I've spent my adult life volunteering because I care about our world, our community, and our people. In my 3 years on the select board, I'm so proud of the work we've accomplished together. Shrewsbury is a wonderful place to live, and in the last 3 years, we've done a lot of great work. We've protected over 80 acres of land, extended the life of our operational override with careful financial planning, established new and varied ways for residents to engage our town and to communicate with our residents. We've expanded critical social safety net programs in uncertain times by establishing and volunteering at the Senior Center Food Pantry and supporting the St. Anne's Food Pantry, establishing Shrewsbury as a dementia-friendly community, and providing utility bill assistance and tax relief options for our most vulnerable residents. But there is still more work to be done. With your support, I hope to continue that work, providing strong financial management, robust and reliable services, and open and accessible government. I love our community, And when you love something, you fight for it. I ask for your support and your vote on Tuesday, May 6th, that I may continue to fight for you and our beautiful community. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Conlon. Just a reminder, the recording of this meeting will be rebroadcast on SMC starting tomorrow. And of course, it'll be available on the YouTube as well. Election day is May 6th. These 5 candidates are seeking 2 seats on the select board. Whether you're here, watching live at home, watching on YouTube, I hope this has informed your vote. And if we get a big round of applause for the candidates tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, and good night.